Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I am talking about The Call of Poohthulhu. This is from April Moon Books, and as it says on the cover, selections by Neil Baker, desecrations by Carmen Cerra, which essentially means Neil Baker's the editor, Carmen Cerra is the illustrator. Now, first of all, let's look at that cover. You got something spooky right down here. You got a mysterious book. What is this shadow? You can't see it very clearly, but it's very distinct if you're a fan of Lovecraft's work. And then on the back, just an example of the illustrations that are inside. And what this is, just in case you're wondering, is an anthology of Winnie-the-Pooh, H.P. Lovecraft mashups, I guess, possibly. The best, this calls them amalgamations. An imaginative amalgamation of two beloved literary genres, the whimsical early stories of Winnie-the-Pooh and the mythos tales of H.P. Lovecraft. So, authors inside. Some of these, I don't know what I'm saying. John Linwood Grant, Christine Morgan, huge fan of Christine Morgan, Lee Clark Zump, or Zumpy, Pete Rawlick, Edward M. Erdelak, Robert P. Atone, Jackson Parker, Lisa Cunningham, Kevin Wetmore, and Jude Reed. So there you go. There's your list of all the authors. All right. So for the too long didn't watch folks, 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this collection. I didn't know what I was in for. I am a fan of Winnie-the-Pooh. I've read the A.A. Milne Winnie-the-Pooh stuff. I'm a fan of the works of H.P. Lovecraft. Not the man, but the works. But you never know what you're going to get, especially when you take two very different things and smush them together. But what you get is a fascinating, fun, and horrifying collection of stories. Now, right off the bat, for the most part, you have two distinct types of stories here. You have stories that are written just like a Winnie-the-Pooh story with Lovecraftian elements. And then you have stories that are written like Lovecraft with Pooh and the Winnie-the-Pooh characters. 1,000 Acre Woods and all that. 100 Acre Woods? 100 Acre Woods. But so some that are written more like Winnie-the-Pooh, some that are written more like Lovecraft. The exception being the final story. We'll get to that. So, let's see. Table of contents. There's an introduction, but then we have The Celery at the Threshold by John Linwood Grant. The Very Black Goat by Christine Morgan. Back to the Black Bog by Lee Clark Zump, or Zumpy. Where Howls the Edgog by Pete Rawlick. Head Like a Jar by Edward M. Erdelak. In which we discover the 101st Acre by Robert P. Atone. Eeyore Makes a Friend by Jackson Parker. When She Was Very Tired by Lisa Cunningham. The Statement of Eeyore Carter by Kevin Wetmore. And then Acrewood by Jude Reed. The Statement of Eeyore Carter, right off the bat, is essentially... I don't think this is a spoiler. Based on the title, it's essentially a Winnie-the-Pooh version of the Statement of Randolph Carter. With Eeyore being the one giving the statement. So if you're familiar with that story, you're going to be familiar with the Statement of Eeyore Carter. But other than that, some of these stories follow a bit of the narrative of certain Lovecraft stories, but some of them simply take Lovecraftian elements and again, put them into Pooh type stories. We have a nice mix of main characters. We've got Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore, obviously, in the statement of Eeyore Carter, as well as Eeyore Makes a Friend. Eeyore is our main character. We have a great one where Piglet is the main character. We have one where a very meta story where Kanga is the main character. Owl gets the spotlight in one of the stories. I think Rabbit might be the only one that doesn't really get to star, doesn't get to shine. Now I believe it's Head Like a Jar, so I'm just going to take a quick look and see if, yes. Head Like a Jar is slightly different in that it starts with the real world and the son of A.A. Milne and something horrific that happens, and then it transitions to the 100 Acre Wood and the Pooh characters where something horrific is happening. Whereas, with the exception of the final story, everything else takes place in Pooh's world, in the 100 Acre Wood, with those characters. The final story is the only one that completely is real world. And it's modern day, and it's about a woman and her husband and their child going to an Airbnb, and what happens. And it is essentially a Pooh horror story, but it's not, and it fits with mythos, cosmic horror perhaps. It would fit into Lovecraft's oeuvre, but it's the one story that's not written either Poohish or Lovecraftian. It's sort of its own thing, but it does fit, and I did enjoy it very much. But it's the outlier amongst the rest of these stories. Some of the stories are more whimsical and very Winnie the Pooh like. And even the ones that are written like Lovecraft have that thing where certain words and phrases are capitalized, such as they'll say something about, "Ooh, the very big thing," and "the very big thing" are all capitalized. I was hoping I could just find a quick example of that. But, oh well. Inspect this very flat boat. Very flat boat, all capitalized. So it was a thing that was done in A.A. Milne to sort of emphasize how the characters would sort of talk about things and give them importance. And so in both the Pooh-like stories, the A.A. Milne type stories, and the Lovecraftian stories, that is something that is in most, if not all of them, except the last story. That's the outlier. I like I just like the juxtaposition of the innocence of Pooh and the cosmic horror of Lovecraft. And in the Head Like a Jar, it does, I'm always trying not to spoil things. The author takes a thing from Winnie the Pooh and makes it a Lovecraftian horror, and even gives it that Lovecraftian spelling. It's clearly recognizable, but spaces and apostrophes and things within the name. And I loved that. And there were a couple stories that actually had me choked up a little misty-eyed. As much as I love horror and dark stuff and sometimes terrible characters and terrible things happening. There's simply something about the innocence, the pureness of the Winnie-the-Pooh characters that speaks to me. I've always been a fan of Winnie-the-Pooh, and so I got a little emotional when they're faced with some of these horrific things. Oh, and there's even a reference or two to the book The Tao of Pooh, which is a book I love. Book of Eastern philosophy through the eyes of Winnie-the-Pooh, or Winnie-the-Pooh through the eyes of Eastern philosophy. But anyway, some references to that, so I was very excited for that. There's one of the stories has a reference to another childhood classic. If you read this, let me know if you pick that out. So there are a few little Easter eggs here and there. Nothing that's going to take you out of the story. Just things to spot, if you happen to catch them. So yeah, there's terrible knowledge, there's dark forces, there's interdimensional danger. Again, the hallmarks of H.P. Lovecraft with the sweet innocence of Winnie-the-Pooh. I don't know why I put this off for so long. And I'll tell you why I decided to read it now. A little insight into how this works. And I use that term loosely. I had finished reading the book I was reading. Could not decide what to read next. I just have so much to choose from. Wasn't sure what to read. So I was watching some stuff on YouTube. I was watching a video from No Rolls Barred, where they play tabletop games. They were playing the game Jaws, which is a game I really want to play. It's Jaws, based on the movie. It's supposed to be really fun. Looked like a lot of fun. But anyway, at the beginning of the video, they're introducing all the people that are going to be playing the game. And essentially in the game, one person is Jaws. Up to 3 other people are Hooper, Brody, and Quint. And so they said, Sullivan is playing Jaws because he's the most vicious person here. And they started joking. Oh, he's a teddy bear. And one of them just said, he's Winnie-the-Pooh. He's more Winnie-the-Pooh than Jaws. And as soon as they said that, my eyes ticked down a little bit because this was sitting right on one of my carts, right below the TV. And I was like, all right, that's it. My decision is made. I'm going to read Call of Poohthulhu. That's how I make decisions sometimes. I can't decide what I'm going to read. I can't decide what I'm going to watch. Some random thing just makes me go, okay, that's it. I don't have to make a decision now. Chance made that decision for me. So that's why I picked this up and read it now, and I feel like a dumbass for not reading it earlier. I would love a follow-up, as long as it's as well done as this one. But that's the Call of Poohthulhu. Neil Baker, Carmen Cerra. Wonderful illustrations. Very Pooh-like illustrations. Each story has its own. 5 out of 5. I loved this book. I had so much fun with it. And as I said, some of the stories are fun and lighthearted, and it's like, oh look, it's Pooh and some Lovecraftian stuff, and some of them are terrifying. So there you go. I don't know what else to say about it. It's fantastic. So, question for this video: are you a fan of Winnie-the-Pooh? It's as simple as that. I grew up watching the Disney Winnie-the-Pooh cartoons. I don't know if there was ever like a full-length movie or just short. I don't know. But while I was reading the book, I could hear those voices in my head as the characters were speaking. Especially Eeyore, Pooh, Piglet. Those are the 3 that really stand out. Kanga and Roo, Owl, Rabbit, Christopher Robin. But Pooh, Piglet, and Eeyore etched into my brain. So I was a fan of the cartoons when I was a kid, and I read the books. I really dig the books. They're fun. They're sweet. And then the Tao of Pooh and the Day of Piglet, both good. Tao of Pooh is excellent. Day of Piglet seems like they maybe stretched the idea a little too far, but interesting Eastern philosophy books. So yeah, I'm a fan of Pooh, and I like mashups. And it's two things that you would never think would work together, and yet it does. There is an introduction where the guy says, basically it was when it says this anthology was born of a flippant remark, and they had learned that Winnie the Pooh was in public domain, and he says, I wondered out loud on social media whether the Call of Poohthulhu might be a good idea. And then, as seems to happen more often than not, a bunch of writers were like, I want to write that. Yeah, I've always been a Pooh fan. Always been a Lovecraft fan for as long as I can remember. I read Lovecraft short stories and anthologies that I got from the library when I was a little kid, or a young kid. So what about you? Are you a fan? Oh, Tigger. That's the thing. Tigger, nowhere in this book. Forgot about Tigger. And Tigger might be... Tigger might still be under copyright? Because as it says in the introduction, let's go back. Upon learning that the beloved first book of the Winnie-the-Pooh by A.A. Milne had entered the public domain. So I'm wondering now if Tigger is a character introduced later and has not entered public domain. I didn't think to look that up, but it makes sense to me. And Tigger is not in here. And Tigger, if he had been, that's another voice. Very much ingrained in my brain. But let me know whether you're a fan of Winnie the Pooh or not. And anything else you want to talk about, let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. And on Blue Sky, I am @EL Smith. Excuse me, that's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.